My name's Pam. I'm with Weymouth Food Pantry, and tonight we are doing Our Living Pantry series on tacos. So it is taco time tonight with a twist. We have Chef Riddle from Patricia's Palate, one of our favorites here at the Food Pantry. Everything she makes is delicious. And Chef Brian, and he can cook too. Pat, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're doing tonight?
Sure, we are twisting it up tonight. Brian's going to start us off with some crispy black bean tacos with cheese. We're going to move in and do a carne asada, a Mexican street taco, marinated steak tonight. We're going to do a quick recipe of Spanish rice for you. We're going to teach you how to make a quick, healthy, fresh guacamole, a salsa fresca, or a pico de gallo using all fresh ingredients. And we're going to end with sopapillas for something sweet.
Sounds yummy to me.
Yep, what I love about tonight is everything is fresh and it's really quick and easy, so you can literally get dinner on the table in 20 minutes or less. So 20-minute tacos with a twist. Let's do it.
As Pat said, tonight we're starting with our crispy black bean tacos with cheese. To go over our ingredients tonight, we have an assortment of cheeses that we'll go over with you in a second. We have fresh cilantro from our garden. These are black beans. This is green onion and fresh lime, salt and pepper, and we have some spices that we're going to use at the end. So to start off with, we've got 2 cans of already rinsed black beans. And our cheese tonight we're using is a cotija cheese, which is a Mexican cheese. It's very similar. It's a hard, salty cheese, which is similar to a feta. If you don't have that, you can use a queso fresco, which is another Mexican cheese. It's a softer texture, but it's still salty. It's almost more of a crumbly goat cheese type texture to it. But anything you have, even if you just have shredded Colby Jack or mozzarella, whatever you have in your kitchen, you can throw in here. Then we will go with 1 cup of our fresh cilantro, our scallion or green onion, a cup of that. And we have a fresh lime. So as far as limes go, if it's nice and soft, you can just cut it and you'll get plenty of juice out of it. As you can see, plenty of juice. If you get a lime from the store and it's really hard, you can pop it in the microwave for 10 or 20 seconds and that'll soften it. And then when you cut it, all the juice will come flying out nicely for you. We will throw some pepper. We also have chili powder. If you want to measure it, it called for 4 teaspoons. I like to wing it and just taste as I go myself. That's what I like about cooking instead of baking. Baking is a lot more precise in measurements, where cooking, if it doesn't taste good, you can add a little salt, a little pepper, a little sugar. This is garlic powder. And another spice very popular in Mexican is cumin, or cumino as they say. It has a very distinct smoky flavor that you know you're eating Mexican food when you taste cumin. So we'll mix this up, get a good marinade on it. Pat, could you warm up my skillet on the stove?
Absolutely.
As you can see, we've got some nice green, white, and black in there from the black beans, and it smells. You can smell that cilantro and lime.
It all smells wonderful.
Okay, now we're gonna go over to the stove. We have our corn tortillas ready to get warmed up in a saute pan with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. If you don't have olive oil, you can use canola oil, vegetable oil, whatever you have in your cupboard is perfectly fine. You just need it in there so the corn tortillas don't stick. So these are 6-inch corn tortillas. If you wanted to use flour, you could use flour tortillas. So we're gonna start with 2. And just to get them a little soft on each side, let them sit a minute so they don't stick and fall apart when you try and pick them up. And I will bring my bean mixture over. If you wanted to add more spice to your bean mixture, you could dice up a jalapeno or serrano chili You could add Tabasco sauce if you like it on the spicier side. Again, whatever you have in your kitchen. If you don't like spicy, you can leave it out. So, if you can pan in, you can see these start to bubble. That tells me it's time to get rolling with our mixture in the middle. So we're just going to take about a tablespoon or so and go right down the middle. You can hear that sizzle. Then we can just fold that over, and if you want to use your spoon just to kind of seal that edge so it'll hold its shape. And the same thing with this one. If a couple pieces fall out, don't worry about it. And we'll let that brown a little bit on one side. You can smell that cumin cooking off in the oil. It just smells dynamite. We've also preheated our oven to 200 degrees, and we have a clean cookie sheet in there. So as we're cooking, we're just going to transfer our tacos to that. We can flip this over one time. See the nice brown color we get on there. That's going to crisp it up nice and give it a crispy texture on the outside, and the soft, creamy black beans and cheese on the inside is going to give it a nice contrast. So we'll swap these over to our pan. And 200 degrees is just enough to keep the tacos warm without overcooking them and drying them out. And we'll move on.
Now we're gonna make a pico de gallo or a salsa fresca, and tonight we're gonna use all fresh ingredients. Tonight we're gonna use just regular tomatoes that I have quartered and I have squeezed to get most of the seeds and the juice out of. We're gonna use a little bit of jalapeno pepper, not a lot, and you can use as much or little as you like. We're using white onion, some garlic, some cilantro, and some lime juice. Now, if you didn't want to use fresh tomatoes, we could also go with the route of doing diced tomatoes. And if I were doing that, I would drain the tomatoes, the diced tomatoes, so that you don't have a lot of extra liquid. But right now, we're gonna get going with our fresh tomato pico de gallo. First thing I'm gonna do is do a rough chop on the tomatoes. Keeping my fingers curled. We don't need a lot, because I'm putting them into this little machine that I've had forever. It's like a little chopper, and that's gonna do most of the work for us. So once I've got a rough chop, I'll bring this bowl of my little chopper back. I'm gonna throw in my tomatoes. You can see it's not too juicy, which is a nice thing. And we're gonna add cilantro. We're gonna add 2 cloves of garlic, as much cilantro as you like. If you don't like cilantro, parsley, fresh parsley is a nice substitute. Maybe about 4 tablespoons of white onion. I'm gonna use about 1/4 of a small jalapeno. That'll make it mild. We don't wanna make it too hot. You can always add more. You can always add hot sauce at the end if you like it hotter. And then I have already squeezed our lime. I'm gonna do the same thing. Get that nice juicy lime in there. Give it some good flavor. I like a little bit of the pulp in there too. We're ready to go. Put the top on.
Pat, can you adjust the heat of a jalapeno and the way you cut it?
Yes, when we, before we, you didn't see that part, but we've talked about it in previous episodes. When you cut the jalapeno open, you want to get rid of the veins, the pulp, and the seeds, unless you like it really hot. But you'll have a milder salsa if you remove the veins and the seeds. And now we're going to give it a whirl. There we go. There we go. Now, it looks still too rough. I'm gonna blend it up a little more. If you don't have a little machine, you just chop everything up. All right, it's very chunky, which is kind of the way I kind of wanted it. So it's quite chunky, which is just fine. If you want it finer, you can keep going. We're going to add just a little bit of salt and pepper. Brian, could you get me a little salt and pepper, please?
Certainly.
And I'm going to put that in a bowl, and we'll be right back to you. And now we're moving on to fresh guacamole. The key thing with guacamole is to use an avocado that's really ripe and soft when you touch it. Not too green, but sort of brownish green in color. And if you pick them up at the store and they are still green, you can put them in a bag with an apple or a ripe banana and close the bag up for a day or two until they get nice and soft like this one. And once they get ripe and you're not ready to use them, then throw it in the refrigerator, and that will slow the ripening process down. But we did, in previous episodes, we showed you how to do peel and do an avocado. We're gonna do a quick reminder on one of them. But for the most part, we've already made the bulk of our guacamole using 3 avocados and half a small red onion and the equivalent of a medium-sized tomato. We're using Campari's tonight. And Brian actually prepped these in advance. He took out the seeds and the liquid from them for us when we put it in our bowl. And 2 cloves of garlic cloves, smashed and minced, fresh lemon juice, a little salt and pepper. So all we're gonna do right now is just quickly review how we're gonna do 1 avocado.
Pat, does it matter what kind of bag you use to put the avocado in?
I'm sorry. Yes, you should put it in a brown paper bag. And that will help the ripening process. This one looks pretty ripe.
Looks like a good one.
Looks like a goodie. And then we're gonna be very careful with the knife. We're gonna put it in, twist it, and then I'm gonna bang it on the sink and it comes right out. Then we're just gonna score the avocado like this. Make little cuts, like little check marks with your avocado to both sides. I'm gonna make it easy to come out and mash up. Or I like guacamole really chunky.
Me too.
Yep. So now we're gonna get ready to add this to the other guacamole that we already made. We're gonna take that spoon and go right around the edge. It's gonna come out. Take the second half, do the same thing, go right around the edge with that spoon. All set. Now we're gonna mash it up a little more. We added about 8 shots of hot sauce. And that's kind of a cheat. That's a really easy way, instead of mincing up a jalapeno or a hotter pepper, and you can control the heat. If you don't wanna add any hot sauce, you don't have to. You can add more garlic if you like it more garlicky. But you can leave out that hot sauce. But Brian put in about 8 shots of hot sauce. And then the last thing we're gonna do is put some more lemon juice in, because we don't want that avocado to turn brown. And 1 more. Keep it nice and lemony. We're gonna mix that up. And Brian, would you bring me a sheet of saran wrap?
Certainly.
Now, we want to avoid the oxidation process. And it used to be, a long time ago, people said they would put the pit of the avocado on top of that. And all you want to do is just prevent oxidation. And I think we've discussed this in prior episodes. But for now, because we're not going to eat this until the end of our meal, we want to cover it and prevent the oxygen from getting to it. So we're going to press it down, get it right on top, create a skin, so to speak, on top of that guacamole. And we're gonna put it in the refrigerator along with the salsa to stay nice and cold for our toppings, our condiments for our meal later.
Here we are with our quick Spanish rice tonight. Starting off with plain white rice, canned black rinsed beans, freshly chopped cilantro, freshly diced tomatoes from our garden as well. We're also gonna use a little bit of chicken broth just to moisten up our rice before we put it in the skillet. Fresh lime juice, and then we're gonna zest a lime into the rice as well. And a couple of spices, the cumin and chili powder to give it that Mexican flair. We have our saute pan warming over the burner. We're gonna start with our rice. And we were gonna put a little shot of that chicken broth in there. If you don't have chicken broth, you can just add a little plain water to keep that rice, one, from clumping together and sticking, and just making it nice and loose. We'll add our rinsed black beans, our diced fresh tomato, our nice cilantro, give it that nice fresh pop. And we'll let all these ingredients warm through. The rice is already cooked. This is instant rice that we cooked right out of a box. I like this rice because it's known not to stick together. There's not a lot of gluten in it. And you could also use, if you had leftover rice in the refrigerator, you could add it to that. We'll add our seasonings, some chili powder, and some ground cumin. Again, as soon as we put that cumin, you're gonna know it's Spanish rice just from that smoky flavor. We'll also add some salt and pepper. And while this is warming up, we're gonna add, to give it some more brightness to complement that cilantro, is some fresh lemon zest. So we just have a plain zester we had in the drawer, and just gently run the lime. You don't want to take any of the white part of the lime because it's bitter. You just want the green skin because that's where those oils hang out and give it that nice lime fresh flavor. Yeah, looks good. I can hear that rice start to sizzle a bit, so we're warming up. Another thought I had too was, now that we made our black bean tacos, we do have some of that mixture left over with our cotija cheese. You could also add that into your rice to utilize some of your ingredients out of your pantry.
I love the colors. It looks great, Brian. And it smells so good.
And we're just gonna finish it off with a little bit of that fresh lime juice we squeezed to give it that vibrance. And from here, we're just gonna put it into an oven-safe bowl to keep warm along with our tacos. And we're gonna move on to see what Pat has to make next.
And now we're making Mexican street tacos. And tonight we're using carne asada, which is a marinated grilled steak. We're doing it in a skillet tonight. We're using a skirt steak tonight, and we're marinating it in olive oil and cilantro and white onion and lime juice and a little salt and pepper. And the recipe will give you the exact ingredients. Now we're gonna really twist you up here a little bit. We can substitute things. So if you didn't have or didn't want to use a skirt steak or flank steak, you could use shaved steak. You could use any kind of beef that you like. You could use ground meat as well. And then to really twist it up, you can use chicken, whatever you have got, chicken breast, chicken thighs, and pork makes a really nice carne asada. So you would start off with your pork chops or with your beef and make strips. We prepared this in advance, but you can see that we cut it in strips. Actually, Brian prepared this nicely. He cut the flank steak or the skirt steak in nice strips, and then he cut it into bite-sized pieces. And you can do that with your pork as well. And you can let the pork or the beef marinate overnight. If you're using fish or chicken, you should only marinate for about 2 hours at the most, because you need an acid in your marinade to start to make that meat more tender or that protein more tender. But if you're using fish or chicken, if you leave that acid on too long, the lime juice or the lemon juice, it's gonna start to cook. So just keep those tips in mind when you're making your Mexican street tacos. We're gonna move over to the skillet and start to cook now. And now we're gonna fry up our Mexican street tacos. Hear the sizzle. That's the part we wanna hear. We're gonna get it all married up and nice and let it sit for a few minutes to make sure that the first side gets a little browned up. And we're gonna turn that heat up a little bit because there's a lot of liquid in there. So we want to take off some of that liquid, let it sear. And we're just gonna let that sit for a bit. And then we'll wait and you can take it back. Now our flank steak, our skirt steak, whatever protein you're cooking, but mine is done. It's been sizzling away. Everything, we've tasted it. It's nice and done. It should be nice and tender. We don't even need any more salt or pepper. It was seasoned perfectly by Brian. The only thing we're gonna do now is we're gonna add some fresh lemon juice now, just to brighten everything up a little bit. And that will finish it off. And we're gonna put some lemon wedges on the platter after we platter it up. But for now, we're gonna turn this heat off and mix in that lime juice, get it all good. Smells great, smells wonderful. I'll take it off the heat completely. Now, Brian is gonna finish up for us flour tortillas. Normally, Mexican street tortillas call for corn tortillas, but since we've done a lot of things with corn tortillas tonight, we're gonna switch it up and use a small flour tortilla. And Brian's gonna take it away.
Our last ingredient for Pat's famous Mexican street tacos is we've got a saute pan with 1 tablespoon of butter. And as Pat said, we have 6-inch flour tortillas. Again, you could use corn. Tonight we're using flour. So you just want to warm these through. We don't want to make them crunchy, just to get that nice buttery flavor in them, soften them up, and then we'll keep them warm, and we'll add everything together over there. We can scoop all those nice ingredients inside and make our own homemade tacos. And that way you can add as much ingredients as you want. You can add your nice pico de gallo that Pat made, or fresh guacamole and sour cream, and just create your own magic with these tacos. See, that's it. Just a minute or two on each side. We'll grab another one. And then you just want to let those sit and get to room temperature. And then once we get ready to eat, they'll be nice and pliable to work with. Moving on to our homemade taco shells. In this preparation, we took 4 corn tortillas and we stacked them, and we took a couple layers of paper towel and just made them damp. Folded them up, put them in the microwave for 45 seconds. So what that does is it keeps them nice and pliable, and then we can form these to the top of our muffin tin.
You want to spray them with oil on both sides before you form.
Or Pam, whatever you have in the closet.
Yeah.
Flip.
Not to be confused with Pam Denholm. We don't want
Right.
her.
So this is just a medium-sized muffin tin, and there's 2 different ways. We can go with the muffin tin inverted, and you just kind of want to press down on this till they kind of start to form. Give it a couple of seconds. Or you could flip this over and put the tortillas inside the muffin tin, but what Pat and I have found is doing it this way you get a little bit more of a bowl instead of, if it was flipped over, you only get a little tiny bowl, just the way they form. And they don't have to be perfect.
And some people even put them in this way. So you can do them 3 ways. But Brian and I found that this method gives you the biggest surface to put a salad in.
One more.
Looking good. These are just kind of fun and really fun for kids too. And if you just don't want to have a lot of rice carb, these are corn rather. You don't have a lot of gluten. There's some, usually in corn tortillas you have no gluten. So you don't have to worry a lot about that, but if you're counting carbs in general, you can make your salad bowl and then leave the shell and move on. You can have it any way you want.
So now we go into a preheated 375-degree oven for 10 to 12 minutes. I would set your timer for 10, then check it. If you need a couple more minutes, that's fine too.
Our dessert tonight are sopapillas. And it's really fun because most cultures have some sort of fried dough or fried bread. And this, we're taking a shortcut tonight. We're using pizza dough cut in wedges to make our sopapillas tonight. Traditional fry bread in native culture or in Mexican culture is usually made with a mix of flour, lard, water, and a little salt, and then you roll it out and make fried dough that way. But this is a really easy way to pick up and have a little dessert. So we've gotten the oil really, really hot. You don't have a thermometer, we're using another cheat. We're gonna spit it with water. That means it's hot and ready to go. Get that, Pat. Put it in so that it goes in away from you, so that you don't spatter yourself with all that oil. Lay it in and away from you. And that will be one batch. We'll let that cook a little bit before we turn it. We're going to take a little break. We've let these cook for about a minute or two, and now they're ready to turn. When they're nice and golden brown, they're ready to turn. So it doesn't take long for these to cook at all. We just want them crispy and not too doughy on the inside. So we're gonna let those cook just a little bit longer and they'll be done. We're gonna put them on a platter and we're gonna serve them with a drizzle of honey and a little bit of cinnamon, which is typical of this type of fry bread.
Everything's done, and oh my gosh, what a spread. I can't wait to tuck in. I've been trying to do some work while this happens. Forget it. The smells and the flavors coming from this kitchen have got me positively salivating. I'm starving. So, just want to mention that this is such a great thing, versatile thing for you to do with your family because it accommodates all the picky eaters in your household. I know we have one or two at home. Don't like this, or too fussy with that, or doesn't eat tomatoes, whatever. So this way, if we build your own, you can build it however you like it. So it's a wonderful solution for that.
It is, and even when I do parties for Patricia's Palate, it's really popular for graduation parties in particular because you can do burritos and tacos. You can have meat, no meat, dairy, no dairy, gluten, no gluten. And there's, as Pam says, there's something for everybody, and you can build it just the way you want it. You can leave off cilantro if you don't like it. You can add more lime, you can add more hot sauce. It's really fun and it's really easy, and you can make it just the way you want it.
And the popularity is taken off as well as taco trucks, as far as the food trucks you see at the beach with crunchy tacos, soft tacos, burritos. You can customize it with the menus that they have, so you can go anywhere with it.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I like to make this at home too, that you touched on with the family. They can get involved with this in the kitchen doing it, making the taco shells and forming on the muffin tins and adding the ingredients to the way they like it, and it makes it a fun family night to put this all together.
So I'm gonna actually ask you to come on over here so that we can give you a quick walkthrough of what we've got.
And how we would suggest that you maybe use some of these things.
So as a side dish, right, Pat?
Yes, as a side dish, this is your Spanish rice that Brian prepared, and it's so fresh, topped with cilantro or parsley, whichever you want. I'm gonna actually take one of these little taco bowls that Brian made, and I'm gonna put a little lettuce in the bottom to get me started. And then I'm gonna take some of our carne asada and put it right in the bowl. And then for me, I'll go ahead and top it with some sour cream, maybe a
Let me
little.
pass back to you.
Yep,
There we
I'll do
go,
this.
sour cream, and then we've also got some cilantro if you
And
love
I'm gonna
it.
take a little guac and salsa.
So I'm gonna bring this by you.
So it looks, I'll show you how pretty this is gonna look when we're done. I'm gonna put a little of our pico de gallo on, because I like that piquant taste. And I like guacamole, so I'm gonna put then a little guac on the top. And I'm gonna finish it with a dollop of sour cream. And that would be my taco salad bowl. Brian, you wanna build something?
Yes, I'm gonna go this route and construct my own. I'll go similar with some lettuce. I might even do a little rice base on mine because it has those black beans in there that I like. Then I'll add my carne asada, which has that, we already sampled this before it came over, so we know it's
You know
delicious.
it's pretty good.
It has that tang of the lime and the garlic, and
Do you want any guac or salsa?
yep, I'm
Pico
gonna
de gallo?
throw some scallion. Definitely some of this yummy salsa that Pat made.
And with all these garden ingredients, it's just so cool. Week after week, we get to smell this freshness. And that's the beauty of summertime and things coming out of our own gardens and what's coming out of Our Living Pantry. It just smells delicious. Pam, what are you gonna build?
I'm gonna go straight for these crispy black bean tacos. And I'm gonna put a dollop of this on the side to swipe and dip, and maybe some sour cream.
I'm gonna have a little of the Spanish rice too. I want some of those black beans. Pam, would you like any of the rice?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab some of this too. So the other thing, you know, we talk about all the time, we relate this back to the garden because this really is an episode or series encouraging people to, you know, try something new, be inspired in the kitchen and use fresh ingredients. Growing tomatoes, there's no art, there's no science. It's literally put a tomato plant in a 5-gallon bucket of dirt and water it and put it in the sun. We've had tomato vines growing out of a crack in the sidewalk that produce more fruit than the thing that I lovingly planted in my garden. So they will really grow anywhere. It's super hard to kill a tomato. So I encourage you to try it. It's one of the safer veggies to start with, and the base of so many great dishes. So I'm going to stop talking now so I can eat.
So Pat's sopapillas are out of the oil, they're nice and warm, and they smell just incredible. So to top these tonight, we're just gonna go with a little bit of drizzle of honey right over the top. And we'll top it with a little bit of cinnamon.
And that'll be our dessert.
And if you had powdered sugar, you could add that, fresh
If you
fruit.
didn't have honey, you could use sugar and cinnamon, powdered sugar, regular sugar. You can, again, customize your sopapillas or your fried dough, fried bread with anything you like.
In fact, I would actually be a fan if you watched our pizza episode and you had some leftover dough the next morning. I would not be above making that for breakfast.
Right, fresh fruit.
Fresh fruit,
Fresh fruit,
maybe a little cream if you have it, whatever.
Just a little chocolate even.
Jam, jelly, whatever you have on hand. If you have a preserve, dip it into that and eat it. I don't know, I think it's just
Anything goes.
anything goes. Thank you for joining us. Next time, what do we have, Pat?
We are going to work with tomatoes and fresh produce coming out of the garden again. We're going to talk about how to use some of that excess tomato and how to deal with tomatoes. We're going to teach you how to quick pickle, make some relish maybe. Join us and we'll see what happens. But please come.
See you next time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.